We're going to get the lady's robot voice saying recording in
Mm-hmm.
progress. Andrew, give me an audio check.
Check one, two.
Nice, all good. And check one, two. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Hello there, and welcome back to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. This is episode 179. We have been away for a while. I'll just explain why before we get into it. First, my Declan and Chris, my usual companions, couldn't make the recording today. So we have substituted them or possibly upgraded them with an old friend of the show returning to us, Andrew, aka Mr. Visions of the Past. Welcome back, and how have you been, mate?
I've been doing all right. Thanks for having me back. It's gonna be fun today. We're gonna have fun with this.
It is, I think so. We're going to talk about kind of a topic that even just saying the words blows my mind, but let's go for it. We're going to talk about 10 Assassin's Creed games in 5 years. I think there are some asterisks we can attach to that phrase already, but we're going to get into that. Yeah, Andrew is joining us. As you might have heard, I'm British, Declan is British, Chris is Scottish. Andrew is British, but with a twang. That's what we'll say, with a twang. He's from the tea throwing side of the Atlantic, and he's hosted for many years an Assassin's Creed podcast, which I definitely recommend. Visions of the Past. On our show, we do fairly unscripted, casual chat. If you want proper, in-depth stuff about aspects of the lore that honestly I've never even heard of, go and listen to Andrew's stuff because he's really good at going deep into topics that aren't always covered. Although you've taken a bit of a break, but your content is there, YouTube, audio services. Definitely check out Andrew's work. So before we get into it, it has been a couple of months since we hit record or published anything. We had a busy spring and summer. I did a few video essays, some reviews. We've recorded some episodes, but it has been a long break. The reason, honestly, is we've been busy and we've all just been feeling a bit bleh about everything, about what topics to talk about. The general reaction to Shadows, and I don't subscribe to most of the criticisms that have been thrown at Shadows, but it's definitely sucked some of the excitement out of the conversation. I'm going to be honest with you. I pre-ordered it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm happy with a 3 month delay. More time to refine the game, more time to improve the visuals, improve the AI behavior, whatever it is that they've seen that they know that they can do better. Personally, I'm fine with it. I don't mind if the game is delayed. Mirage was delayed multiple times. We got a very polished game. I think I'm happy with Shadows also having a delay and more time, and a lot has changed. And I just want to set the scene here before I hand over to Andrew to kind of lay out the Assassin's Creed roadmap as we know it. So going back a couple of months, we heard with sort of no notice that Shadows was due to have a press preview at a gaming event in Japan. This was mid to late September.
Tokyo Game Show, if I remember right.
That was it. Thank you, mate. Couldn't remember the name. Tokyo Game Show. That was cancelled, and then a few days later there was an what you would call an extraordinary investors announcement, basically saying that Ubisoft's quarterly targets were not going to be hit. The share price took a even more of a nosedive, and a lot of that was pointed towards the phrase is it's an awful phrase. It was Star Wars Outlaws sales were softer than expected. I hate that corporate speak. They didn't sell as many copies as they expected, and the impact of that seems to have really hit the Assassin's Creed sort of plan hard. But personally, I think for the better. If the game is released in a better state, great. Um, it's also quite damning on Shadows, and Shadows got a lot of negative attention. I played it just before release. I thought it was decent. I said this before. It's not an amazing game. It's not a groundbreaking game, but it's decent. It's not worth the hatred. It's not a 9 or a 10 out of 10 it's not a game of the year, but it's decent. It's fun. It feels really Star Wars. And the dev team there have been spending a lot of time with various title updates to fix bugs, to improve the gameplay. The first expansion, which I think is based on Lando Calrissian, comes very, very soon. We're recording this on the 16th of November, and I think it's in the next week or so. Outlaws will get its first sort of big expansion. But anyway, for those of us in the Assassin's Creed world, we then learned that Shadows was going to be delayed. So I'm just going to
Yeah,
read
it's
the.
within a week, November 21st.
Okay, very good. So maybe if I pull my finger out of my ass, we might publish this just before that date. But maybe by the time you're listening to this, Shadows has had its sort of major upgrades and bug fixes and whatever, and plus the new expansion.
Oh, I did
So
buy the gold. I do get that. Yes.
okay. See, I haven't actually bought it. I got to be honest with you. This is like spoiled YouTuber time. We got a preview copy, but I don't actually own the game, and I don't know. I'm probably just wait for all the expansions with Outlaws before I buy it because I did enjoy it. I would like to go and see Lando and do the other stuff, but I'll probably wait for a sale.
Yeah,
Um,
I got the game real cheap and played maybe a world or two, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this now. You're
okay,
right, not the best, but it's not horrible.
yeah, yeah. Interesting that you got bored though.
It was the same thing. I felt like I was just running all over doing fetch this, fetch that. And I kind of
Understood.
got tired. Like, I like Nyx and oh goodness, I already forget her name.
Okay.
Kay, yeah. Like I like the characters, but the gameplay was just too much. Because it's kind of Metroidvania.
Yes, it is.
So going to one place and then coming back because I can't get something, it frustrates me. So I get bored with it.
Okay. You have hit on something that bothered me, and I like when I play the open world games, Odyssey, Origins, Horizon. I like to go to a region, do the quests, talk to the NPCs, explore the towns, pick up all the stuff, and then move on.
That's what I
I
like
don't
to
want
do.
to come back. I love to just explore and go in the houses and go up to the viewpoints and go, damn, this place looks amazing, and then never come back.
Yep,
Unless the
I can
story
tell you
forces me
exactly
to.
where I ended. I needed some core to get K an upgrade of some sort, and I didn't have the ability to get it.
Yeah.
And I just went, all right, well, that's gonna bother me forever.
Mm, yeah. Understood. Understood. What was I saying? So yes, the Outlaws delay had three sort of major impacts for Shadows. I'm just going to read them here. This is from the press release, and then we'll launch into what it means for 2025. So, Shadows is coming out on the 14th of Feb, Valentine's Day.
Same day as Captain America, Brave New World.
Okay, all right. Um, the other thing is that the traditional seasons pass model, which I don't think anyone likes, is being discarded. And it says here, this is quoting direct from the statement. All players will be able to enjoy the game at the same time on the 14th of Feb, and those who pre-order the game will be granted the first expansion for free. So that tells me that the bonus quests for pre-ordering are just going to be available to everyone, but there'll still be expansions. That's how I read it, that you'll pay for. Or are they saying that all the expansions now are bundled into the sale price?
I doubt it. I seem to remember seeing somebody, maybe it was Joy Raptor, who broke down what the old collector's edition was to the new one.
Mm,
And it seems like the pre-order bonuses are staying the same, but like the pre-order for the higher editions, because it had like a pre-order for the season pass extra mission, if I remember right,
okay.
that was
Oh, the
going to
one
be
with the
available
dog.
for everybody. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. They said the first DLC would be free for everybody, if I remember right.
Okay,
So I'm
okay.
betting we're going to have more that are going to be individual. I do wonder if they said they were going to get rid of their whole season pass model for like all of their games, if I remember right.
Which, honestly, good. Absolutely good.
I don't mind the season. What I liked about the season pass is that I could get gold and at least guarantee myself the gold edition of the game, and then guarantee myself at least the first year of DLC content. I've
Mm,
done that since Odyssey. I didn't do
yeah,
it on Origins because it was cheaper to do the DLCs separately than the season pass because I didn't care about the cosmetics.
yeah.
So with this one, what this kind of tells me is that they're gonna it might have been pushed back far enough that we're encroaching on that first DLC, so it made a season pass pointless for the first year, and then they'll release at least one other DLC that'll be what, $20 depending on the size.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Ubisoft have they've worked themselves into a corner where everyone knows that you need to wait a year for all the content or more, and also it'll be 50, 60% off.
And that's the
So
whole
people just wait.
market. Like everybody
Yep.
is doing that,
Yep.
unless you're a yearly release. And we'll talk about that later. It seems like we're going to back to yearly releases, but the DLCs are going to, it's like they're going to take 2 years to support one title while releasing another one in that process.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those things industry wide that we all know DLCs come in some way, some form.
Mm.
It it's just a matter of, do we buy it now and get in on the ground floor, or do we wait? And it always seems like there's an Assassin's Creed game on sale somewhere. I mean, all the titles. Xbox has just put out their Black Friday sale. You can get all 13, 14 titles for under $120.
Wow. That's, I mean, even if you just did the main story, that's what, 1,000 hours of content
Yeah.
or of gameplay for under, geez. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The third major point is that Shadows will mark the return of our new releases on Steam day one. Now, if you're on Xbox or PlayStation, this means nothing. But for sort of one third or so of the gaming market that's on PC gaming is on Steam. You know, despite the fact you can buy games through the Xbox store on PC, you can buy games through the Epic Games Store, through GOG. Um, Steam is where PC gaming is, and the fact that Ubisoft haven't been launching their titles on Steam sometimes for years, it's definitely affected their sales. There was a very interesting article a couple of months ago. It was a comment, I should say, not an article, from one of the game directors of Baldur's Gate 3, a huge hit. And he criticized Ubisoft massively. And this was to do with Prince of Persia, the recent Prince of Persia game. You know, that style of game, very popular on Steam. They didn't release it on Steam. They have consistently cut themselves off from a huge part of the PC gaming market. And you know, when they do come to Steam, like Valhalla did 2 years later, with all the DLCs, with all the expansions, they arrive at 50% off. People will just wait because they know
Yep.
it's coming. I hope that this return of Steam as a first class citizen for me personally, because I'm mostly a PC gamer, is great news. I like my library on Steam and having all my games there. It'll be interesting to see, do these things, this focus on quality, this focus on, you know, PC as a as an equal citizen, you know, because they've had this Epic Games exclusivity for a long time, and the Epic Games Store, man, there's so many game devs that have commented that the Epic Games Store is just a it's not somewhere you go to promote your games. It's not a dead store, but it's not far off. Um, that's the backdrop of where we are now, November 2024. I think, was it yesterday or the day before? We perhaps would have been playing Shadows on as day
It
one.
would
Was
have
it even?
been Tuesday this week, yeah,
Yeah.
for
So
the higher
yeah.
places, yeah. Yeah, and I
Instead,
put out
we're
a message that was just like, "Hey, look, we could have been playing a Broken Shadows right now."
getting pissed off at bugs. Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
graphics not working or
And that's
animations glitching. Yeah.
and I want to point out that that's not on the devs.
No.
That's not, because it
No.
takes time. And the fact that you're putting out release dates almost a year before you can even say, yeah, we're going to hit that date.
Mm,
It's just
mm,
it just is what it is, and I'm tired of it because with Ubisoft, pushing back Shadows was the right thing. So Outlaws came out, a few things were broke. Like they just put out this big patch for fixing stealth and things like that. And then what was the game before that? Avatar.
yeah, that was a bit of a meh.
And that didn't. released in a great quality state, if I remember right.
Yeah, apparently so. I haven't played it. I haven't followed it
I didn't
closely,
play it
but
either.
yeah,
Those are their last two games, and if you look at, they're both not they're not Ubisoft originals.
yeah,
So they also have to pay out a share of what they make for the license. So I'm afraid I would. It's crazy to me to see. Of course, they're not hitting the marks. They're not if they're releasing them poorly, and then you have to put out so much of your profit to well, both of them are Disney. So
Disney. Yes, of
yeah.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. More money for Disney. They need it. Bless them. They're only a small
Oh yeah.
company. Um, so yeah, against this backdrop of delays, problems, it feels like there's a real total change of approach that Ubisoft need to take and maybe are taking finally. Let's zoom in to the bit that we care about, which is Assassin's Creed. And there's been multiple stories, tidbits from different journalists. Tom Henderson seems to have a very good track record of pulling out these predictions, leaks, rumors, and them coming true. And yeah, we're looking at 10 potentially 10 Assassin's Creed games or 10 projects in the next 5 years. Now, my first reaction is, oh my word, I do enjoy playing other games as well. But I'm invested, I'm invested in this and I want to know what happens with the modern day and with the assassins and whatever. So Andrew, why don't you break it down for us sort of year by year? What are the projects? What are the project names? And what do we know about them?
Before I get into that, I want to congratulate you and this podcast. Here in a couple of weeks, you guys will be turning 5.
That is a damn good point.
So
I'd
I
forgotten all
want
about
to
that. Thank you,
say
mate.
congrats. I know how hard it can be to stay wanting to podcast for that long.
I
Um,
appreciate it, buddy. Appreciate it.
so we're looking at 5 years, and you mentioned being invested. A lot of us are. I've been an Assassin's Creed fan for 15 years this Christmas. So over the next 5 years, I mean, even next year, potentially 4 games. We're looking at Shadows in February, Jade, sometime in summer is the rumor. That is the mobile game that had the beta. Was it last year or the year before?
It was last that Jade is the funny one, right? Because there was a wasn't a public beta, was it? But it was quite a
No, it was a private beta, but they were able to talk about it. The
yeah.
two big outlets that I can think of that talked about it were Joy Raptor and Access the Animus.
Yeah, they had access to it. I know a few of our former guests we've had on the show. Jason, I think he had access to it. Um, it looked pretty good. I mean, mobile gaming doesn't interest me, but it looked nice. Lots of people, and now it's gone dead.
Yeah, it's like there's been
What did the
nothing about
beta
it.
uncover that needed 18 months of work? It's bizarre.
Or I wonder, this is conspiracy hat theory. This is being made by Tencent.
Good
So
point.
Tencent owns something like 12% of Ubisoft.
Mm,
The biggest company, the biggest share owner is the Gaumont family and their company.
yeah.
Tencent's got a stake in that company too. And then there's been that rumor of the Gaumont Tencent Ubisoft buyout. So I just wonder if all of this is tied together.
Interesting.
So strange conspiracy theories aside, we move into Invictus, which is supposedly our first multiplayer game that's going to
Hmm.
be in the quote unquote Animus Hub. And this is supposed to be in the style of Fall Guys, but we haven't really heard much solid information.
Sorry. I know I should try to be like professional here, but I read the article as well and I just laughed. Like Fall Guys is fun, but you play it a few times with your friends, you have a laugh, and then do you stick around? Really? I know I'm not the target market, right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
This seems like 2 years too late.
well, and to be fair, when you're looking at your biggest IP, you want to branch out and try to bring people in.
True. That is a good point. Yep.
So even if it's not for us, the quote unquote hardcore, it can be a gateway for maybe our children to play it.
Good point.
And then it seems like the big one for next year is Project Obsidian, which is the rumored Black Flag remake. And that's the one that's because I started playing Black Flag again.
Yes, you have. You've been going back and sort of 100%ing all of the older
I've been
games, haven't you?
I started January 2022 and I've made it up to Black Flag.
Okay.
And I haven't been this excited to get into a game for a long time. And I've
Mm,
played Black Flag many times, but I'm just
hmm
excited to get back out on the open seas. And they've done a lot of stuff recently with Skull and Bones that could at least make a Black Flag remake, like if they rebuilt it from the ground up,
Yes.
exciting.
Yes.
That's
Do you mean
2025.
do you so on the Black Flag Project Obsidian topic, do you mean just a visual uplift? Or
Well,
do you mean gay? Because I played a little bit of Skull and Bones in a beta 3 or 4 months before release.
me too. I
And
played that beta.
it was fine. It's not my sort of game, just endlessly grinding credit to
That
upgrade this. But
is
it,
that the
it
wait before you say that, is that the last Ubisoft original they released? Because
I mean,
that
if we're
game dropped like a dead fish too.
yeah, it really did. If we're ignoring your annual Just Dance release,
Oh yeah.
Just Dance now is a $1 billion franchise
Yep.
within Ubisoft's stable. So that's Just Dance is a really fun game,
I
man.
buy it
That's a
every year
great
for
game.
my daughter.
Let's say my youngest loves it. We've bought it for every year for the last 5 years or so. Although again, I know I'm going into sort of like spoiled YouTuber territory, but I did get early access to Just Dance 25 through the creators program, and just for a brief moment, Andrew, I was a cool dad.
Yep. I know that
Just for a
feeling.
very brief moment, Dad, this is awesome. And then it's back to like, Dad, please don't talk to me. You're embarrassing. Anyway, so
Yep.
not normal service was resumed quickly. But anyway, yeah, Just Dance is one of their bigger,
That's one of
there's
the
a
biggest
small group of,
franchises, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um,
I mean, they
but you're
usually
right.
open their Ubisoft forward with the Just Dance and the people
Yes,
coming out and dancing, and so yeah, it's big
yes,
for them.
yeah. But you make a good point. So Just Dance this year, the two big releases, Outlaws and Avatar, were licensed properties. Was Skull and Bones beginning of this year? I think it was, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Because I
That's a good
played as part of
question.
one of the private betas, I think October or November last year, and then it went back for
February
another
16th, 2024.
February.
So
Okay,
it'll be exactly a year when
right. Yes,
yeah, when Shadows release. Now I'm curious, what is
and then it would have been
Ubisoft's
Mirage three
recent?
months, 4 months before that, October last year.
That's 2020
We're,
to
we're going to do some
present.
live googling for our listeners
Yep.
while we check our facts here.
All right.
Um,
Oh, print. We forgot about Prince of Persia. Oh no, that's
oh, that's
26.
embarrassing. How could we forget that?
They've
And
done
again, not my
some
sort of
mobile
game.
games.
Yeah.
Oh, that's 2025. I'm sorry. I'm going in the future here.
Wait, when did X Defiant launch? Was that this year or last
That's
year?
kind of what I'm thinking. They
Yeah.
re-released Monopoly this year. They did it.
Monopoly?
Yeah, they're the ones who put the Monopoly on consoles and stuff.
I honestly had no idea. How bad is that? I had
Yeah.
no idea they owned the rights to Monopoly. What the hell?
They did a 20th anniversary of Beyond Good and Evil. That came out in
Oh,
June.
yes. Yes.
The Rogue Prince of Persia came out on Windows in May. Yeah, X Defiant. X
Okay.
Defiant was the last one that
Okay.
wasn't PC or mobile. That's a
Mm.
brand new IP. Well, it's not brand new. They try to label that as uh oh goodness, as Tom Clancy's X Defiant
It
when it first
started
started.
out, yeah, under the Tom Clancy's branding. It has had a troubled development, I believe, at
Yep.
least
So
based on some reporting.
Avatar was actually last December,
Oh,
and then
wow.
they did Prince of Persia: Lost Crown,
Mm.
Skull and Bones, X Defiant, the Rogue Prince of Persia, which is apparently still only in early access.
So that confused me. That's not the same game. That's a
Nope.
different Prince of Persia game. Different protagonist? Is it the same?
I don't know. I just
No,
what I know about it is that they released so close that sales on one really took a hit because they oversaturated their market.
that's so weird, isn't it? Why would you do that?
And
And
that's
to
the
give
questions we've been having.
right. So we've sorry, Andrew, I've interrupted you and we've gone off topic. So 2025, we're thinking, well, we know Shadows,
We know
Jade,
Shadows. We Jade wouldn't be a surprise. Invictus wouldn't be a surprise.
and then
And
the big
then
one. Well,
Black Flag
the
is kind
second
of
big
the
one.
yeah. Black Flag
Yeah.
is kind of the one. And this was all of this timetable was before they pushed back Shadows.
Mm,
So there's a very good
mm.
chance that some of this gets pushed back.
So if Shadows releases in February, that's in time for their end of financial year.
Yep.
They want to hoover up those sales. They want it to be big. They want the pre-orders. They want, as
They want
many
anything
dollars as
that'll help
possible
their fiscal
for their end of
2024.
year. Yeah. Then we're thinking that, I mean, Jade is probably targeting a very different demographic.
Yes.
It's targeting the Asian market, the
It's
mobile first market.
and it's gonna also target the people that wanted an Odyssey sequel.
True, because when the gameplay that I saw when Access the Animus was streaming it again, this is months and months ago, it just looked very Odyssey.
It looked
It
very
really did.
Odyssey. If I remember right, Cassandra's in it.
Oh, I heard that. I didn't see any of that gameplay or whether
I
it's
think
a
she's like
cutscene or a
the
dialogue or whatever.
I
But
think she's like your trainer. If I remember how that
mm,
goes, I think she's the one that shows you the ropes on how to play the game.
okay, okay. So it's targeting that market, but I suppose then they need something for the holiday season for
Yep, and that would
2024.
be Black Flag would be the one to do. It
Mm,
would be 12 years after the release.
yeah,
It might not need an upgrade, but with the tech from Skull and Bones and like the lighting effects that they're putting into
yeah,
Shadows,
yeah.
uh current gen PlayStation 5 Series X only Black Flag remake would look beautiful.
It really would. No loading screens either. Sailing
No,
straight into Havana or wherever, docking.
yeah, and they could fill out you could have the city density of like Unity
Yeah,
in these cities,
yeah,
assuming that that's how dense they were. Probably not that dense because you're looking at early 17th century with island colonies,
yeah, yeah.
but it could look great.
Yep.
And if they keep the modern day the way it is, like if they do just essentially a graphical upgrade from bottom up, but keep the story, the modern day could use some reworking that would make it very interesting.
Mm,
Um, the idea of there's just one scene that I just did where you look out at the Montreal skyline,
I
and
remember.
that could look
Yes.
totally different.
Yeah, yeah. My one fear is the word you mentioned a moment ago, the story. The
Yep.
story is perfect. The performances by the actors, both verbal and physical, it
Well,
it doesn't need anything, and I just fear that they'll mess about with it.
you don't have to re-record much of like the cutscenes. So if you look at um, Halo Master Chief Collection,
Mm,
when that released, they redid Halo 2. They gave their anniversary edition. Everything's the same, but every cutscene is upgraded to a new graphical style.
okay.
And they went through and basically remapped everything they had to the new graphics. So instead of doing at least the way I understand it, instead of doing like your ping pong ball stuff, they mapped it on the old graphics
Yeah.
and then redid it in the new style, and everything is pitch perfect.
Mm,
It's
mm.
amazing what they did with that remake.
Let's hope.
Remaster.
I hope it's the same. But the modern day is a good point, isn't it? Will they keep the sort of the hacking and the coffee drinking with Sean and Bex? What was
Yes.
Bex? Data delivery girl
Data delivery,
and
yeah.
yeah, barista Sean.
Yeah. Oh, I just did the first mission too. Because she's like, oh, that whole scene. Your coffee shit. Well, it's not a science, it's an art form. I followed the recipe perfectly.
Honestly, though, if
Yeah.
Bex and Sean aren't in it because they decide to rethink the modern day for that game or just strip it out completely, that will be a shame.
Well, the problem, if we're staying with that, the modern day part of that game is essential to Black Flag because of
Mm,
John from IT. The
mm,
whole Sage
good point.
thing is tied in and out. And this is the problem that I have with them stripping modern day from all the games. We have no reason in getting in the Animus.
Yeah.
That game and John and the Sages give you a reason to get in the Animus. Now they could go through and reskin the offices because the same book shows up 20,000 times and all over the place. And
Yeah.
I see things from um, Liberation and Black Flag that are like, oh yeah, these were the games that they made. And they could update that. They could put in things from Unity because we know
Mm.
Abstergo Entertainment went through that. They're
We could have Helen Hibernia and all the other and Jazz
yeah,
Age Junkies as their sort of
just
in universe releases. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just pepper in a little bit more in of lore in there. It'd be fun. Like the Unity released with a hardcover book called
Oh,
User's
the
Guide to the
employee
Animus.
handbook.
Yeah, the employee handbook.
I have that in my
So do
library.
I have it too. And it's like you could add things from that
Mm,
into the modern
mm-mm.
day. Like there's things you can do to make it a new experience.
That's true. That's true. Oh, do you know, you actually got me quite excited for the Black Flag remake. Do you know, if you'd have started this conversation 30 minutes ago, I'd have said, nah, don't touch it. If they can respect it, keep the modern day. I wonder what they'll do about gameplay because the games have
That's
moved
going to
on
be the
so
question.
much.
Yep.
You know, Mirage brought back a lot of the older style of using different tools and tried to bring back some of the old movement, you know, within its various restrictions. But things have moved on a lot since 2013,
I
you
think it
know?
depends on the engine they use.
Yeah. Yeah. Mind you, the rumors, when the rumors broke of this remake, which I think was the beginning of this year, so the early 2024, the way the rumors or the leaks were shared was this has actually already been in development for some time.
Yep.
So it's not that they suddenly decided at the beginning of 2024, let's punt this out the door in 9 months and get it out for Christmas.
Yeah, it
Potentially,
doesn't
it's a
seem
two
like
or
it's
3 year project.
yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's a AC3 remaster where they just put a new coat of paint on it and said, "Hey, you need another reason to buy the gold pass for Odyssey?
For
Here you
Odyssey,
go."
that was it, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And then sort of wrecked the lighting and the art style and everything else. So,
Yeah,
yeah, you've got me
that
interested for
remake took
this.
a minute to get through.
Yeah. And then we already mentioned this, but so Invictus, we're thinking is a, shall we call it a more casual
I
multiplayer?
would say casual multiplayer, yeah.
Yeah,
Um just something to jump into and have fun with
yeah,
and show off your skins essentially.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's look ahead to 2026. What do you think?
2026. That it'll probably Hexa.
Mm,
That
mm,
is currently being headlined by Montreal,
yep.
and we're pretty sure Darby's writing it. Did he confirm that?
I think so. I think I've relayed this story before, but I'll relay this again now. So, cast your mind back, Andrew, and dear listeners,
To
to
your interview.
well, it wasn't the first one. It was this. This is showing off now. It was during the charity event, the community relief charity event, where we raised money for earthquake victims in Syria and Turkey. And one of the daily live streams we did was about halfway through. We did an interview with Darby, looking back at Assassin's Creed Revelations. of course, set in that area. We wanted to try and draw that connection between, Revelations
Yeah, I
and
think that was his second
and
writing credit
uh, that was his
because I thought he
first.
did a
Oh, he
mobile
did some
game
stuff
first.
on, was it Bloodlines or the other one? He did some of the writing for that.
I don't remember which one. I mean,
He
probably.
told us, obviously, dear listener, go back to our channel, like, subscribe, listen to the earlier episodes, all that jazz. I think he worked for Gameloft, if memory serves, and Gameloft were developing or developed on behalf of Ubisoft Bloodlines and Discovery, or one or the other. I can't remember. But Revelations, I think, was his first kind of major, let's call it AAA
Yeah.
writing credit. So we were interviewing him, and we took questions from the audience. We polled people on YouTube and Twitter when Twitter was usable, and we had about a 1.25, 1.5 hour kind of live stream with him, where he talked about the development of Revelations and took questions from the audience. So before we started broadcasting, we had a Discord call going. Myself, Arshak, Wolfie, and Declan, and so we get on the Discord call. Darby's in a meeting room in Ubisoft Towers, in Abstergo Towers in Montreal. So he's getting his microphone set up, and we start chatting. He says, "How are we doing? Yeah, we're all good." And then I get the impression, obviously don't know the guy, but I get the impression he does like a bit of a joke, and he does like to tweak the nose. He's off Twitter now, but when he was on Twitter, he would sometimes chip in onto little conversations just have a bit of banter. So he came into the room and he set his microphone up and we chatted. Then he said, "Right, let's set this up properly," something like that. This is before we went live, so this is not on YouTube. You won't find this. He turned around to his whiteboard and he wrote in big letters "Hexay ideas" and then like a big thought bubble around it and started drawing lines coming off of it. Of course, we laughed. We didn't ask anything that we shouldn't ask because NDAs are important, but it was quite funny that he went straight in with the sort of the shit stirring of Hexay project ideas.
Yeah.
As to answer your point, as far as I know, yes, he is leading that. I would assume he's taken the role of narrative director again and having
Well, that's
managing a
what he
team
was
of
in
writers.
Valhalla.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe he wants to step back into more of the hands-on role. Who knows?
Well,
But
if I remember right with Valhalla, did he write the modern day? Because he said, I
ooh,
remember hearing interviews where he said he wrote specific things for it.
I honestly don't know. The only thing I do remember is that I think each arc had a different, not necessarily a completely separate writer, but a small team of writers would write each arc, and it wouldn't be the same writers for every arc. So I guess you
Right.
could say
And
they were developed in parallel
with that many
with,
arcs, you got to do it
yeah,
that way.
yeah, with him
Um,
overseeing it. I don't know if he was hands on with pen and paper or not.
so according to his lovely Wikipedia article,
Yep.
he worked on Bloodlines and Discovery.
Oh, okay.
And him and I share a birthday, apparently.
Oh,
So that's
nice.
nice. So yeah, apparently they also have him written as a co-writer in Unity. Is he in the credits for that?
I don't know if he is, but I do remember him saying, and again, I think this came up either in an AMA on Reddit or maybe in a Discord conversation with him. He contributed, I think, to some of the database entries, and in particular, he wrote some or all of Napoleon.
Okay, so that would make sense because I can, especially with the database, because I can see him, Sean as a mix of him and Danny. Oh no, I'm drawing a blank on his
Wallace.
name. Yeah, Danny Wallace.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, I totally
yeah,
see Sean as a mix of both.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That makes sense. That checks.
so according to the rumors, because they announced Hexay at the same time they announced Shadows,
Yep.
way back in was it 2020?
Wait, it was the AC 15 event. It was 2022. My God, doesn't that seem a long time ago?
Uh-huh. Assassin's Creed 2 turns 15 this year.
Yeah, that's
Um, so
bonkers, isn't it?
yeah, it's just a long time. And we'll get speaking of a long time, we'll get to that when we talk about 27. But 2026
Yeah.
with Hexa, that's rumored to be medieval Germany around the time of the
Mm-hmm.
witch trials, which that's going to if it's even if it's a small game, and if they do it proper, it's going to be a bloody game.
Yes. Yes.
And there's rumors of a female lead, main
Yep.
character, solo female lead that can turn into a cat.
Unbelievable.
So, like, if you tie that into a piece of Eden, okay, I'll go with that. I can suspend my disbelief if that's the
Mm,
route you go. But if you're
mm.
going um, Valhalla with a witch's brew and hallucinations, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, everyone is sort of the group think is coming to the same conclusion that it will be very dark and maybe a horror. It'll be
Yep.
more Resident Evil or Silent Hill than than anything else that we've
And
had.
that will be something new because if I the original rumor was they would also be supporting Shadows still when that game released, but that was when I assumed that they were going to release it back
Mm.
to back, when it was going to be 2024 with Shadows and 2025 with Hexa.
We have to assume that even if Hexa is making good progress and is ready or nearly ready for release in 25, we have to assume they'll push it back because
Yeah.
the calendar's so packed. You don't want Hexa competing with Obsidian and or Shadows expansion 2 or 3 or however many expansions there'll be.
And Obsidian's really what the new you can't say, oh, here's this new mainline game, but keep playing our old mainline game because we're still putting
Yeah.
DLC. And by the way,
Yeah.
here's this brand new remake we worked from the ground up on. No, you have to push it back even if it's ready.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if it's not ready, if it is ready, it gives them more time to go through the bugs and just work out all the small kinks.
Yes. Yes. So we're thinking Hexa 2026. I wonder. I mean, we've already seen from their 2025 lineup they're very clearly targeting different audiences, different
Right.
demographics. That's fine. If Hexa is in 26, what else will be in 26? Are they going to go for a February for the financial stuff and a November to hit the Christmas sale? So sort of two big releases every year
Well, and if
on
you
that
look at
on that
some of these
cycle.
ones that we don't know when they could come out, you could
Mm,
do a mobile, a multiplayer, and a big game all in 1 year.
true.
Because
True.
some of the things that we don't know about is like Codename Red, which is supposed to be a co-op multiplayer game. We have a supposed Netflix game
Whatever happened
for
to that?
I
That was
I don't
that
I
was
haven't
just
even
been
heard, like,
discussed for
there's nothing even
years.
on the series.
Yeah,
But
good point.
and like even all the transmedia has been dead for a while because the only thing that I know that's coming out is a Mirage comic book that has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I think
That's the
right now it's
comic that will tell the story of
Soaring Eagle
Falad. Is that
something.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Soaring
yeah.
Eagle or something like that. And the only thing in the transmedia that's going on right now is they're still doing the Black Flag webcomic that still comes out every week.
Oh, okay. I must admit that's of no interest. I have no idea what it is or what the story is. Are you
It's
subscribed to it? Are you
I
reading it?
am, but I only read like the first 3 issues and they're up to like 80 now
Oh my god. Right. Okay.
because it's like a 10-15 minute read per issue. And
Mm,
I was like, okay, well, I can't read this every week. And then went about my life and went, oh, we're at 80 now.
wow. Okay. There's the other thing that was I think was due but has been delayed is the third Fragments novel
That I
because
saw. Yeah, I
we've
saw.
had two. The first of which I can't remember, and then Blade of Azu.
Blade of Azu was the first one.
Highland's
It's
Children.
Highlands Children is the second one.
Okay, but the third one's been
Um,
delayed or
and
whatever.
it's not even really been delayed. It's a translation. It's already out in France.
Oh, right. I didn't realize. Okay.
But you're right. There, that novel did, and we don't know the one you might be thinking about is Kate Hartland's Engine of History Part
Where's
Three.
her third Engine of History book? That's all quiet. I mean, okay, so here's a thought. Um, we have well, we don't have to assume this. It makes sense to me as an outsider that when you're planning transmedia that connects to a game release, you want to release it around the same time, either as a
Mhm.
prequel to build up interest or to set the scene, or as part of the post release, to expand the story, expand the universe, talk about side characters. With Shadows delayed, I have to assume that any linked transmedia has also been delayed. And that explains why we've had this dead zone of
No, they
minimal
did that with
transmedia.
Valhalla and they did that with Mirage. And I mean, we're still looking to get a little bit of Mirage, but they
Mm,
haven't even announced anything around Shadows for transmedia.
that's actually a good point.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if that was the way that they're going, did they have something in the pipe and decide to push it back long before we knew about it? Or are they
Mm,
just not doing anything transmedia? Or is it all going, or are they all going, wait, let's dump it all in the Animus Hub? And we haven't heard anything about that since they officially changed the name from Infinity to Animus Hub.
indeed. Let's talk about the Animus. I tell you, let's finish. We still haven't finished our run through of projects, but let's come back to the Animus Hub maybe we'll close with that, mate, because we've had some news and more rumors which have then been corrected by news. So we'll come back to that. Um,
So,
so
do you want to do,
2026 Hexay,
and possibly a number of multiplayer ideas or Netflix
yeah,
mobile,
yeah. So there's two multiplayer projects that are rumored. There's
and we don't
Codename.
know
We know nothing apart from potentially the name. Codename Raid, which we
which is
think might
supposedly
be a
supposed to be a
co-op.
co-op,
Yeah,
and then
and
there's
then
Echoes,
hmm,
which is supposedly being a multiplayer game head by Ubisoft Annecy using Scalar Tech. So I don't know much about Scholar Tech, but isn't that you? What is that used in?
Scalar was launched in the last year or two. It was launched not specifically as a game engine like Snowdrop or Anvil, but my understanding of it, I don't work in game dev, I'm not a developer, um, was that it was more about how to use online resources or how to, what's the right word? How to extrapolate. So potentially how to build open worlds, maybe like procedural generation.
Yes. Quick look is that it's being created by Ubisoft Stockholm
Yep.
to utilize the power of the cloud, quote unquote.
Ah, there we go.
So this could be like an MMO, as much as we don't want to think. We think MMOs as either hack and slashes or shooters, but I could
Mm,
see like um the old school Animus training multiplayer, the PvP stuff, as could you imagine instead of just a group of 16 or whatever it is, 100 or 200 players in it? And that
yeah,
tech could do that.
true, true. But then
They
how
announced
do
the
you
tech in
do that?
2022.
Right, okay. How do you do that kind of scale and still have it as a stealth focused multiplayer? Or maybe you don't.
Well, have you played the multiplayer?
I've played a lot of Unity co-op. I've played a fair bit of Black Flag multiplayer in the past, and I think I did. Do you remember? And we're going back again. I think a couple of years when there was a bit of a bonfire of Ubisoft projects,
Oh,
and
when
they.
they were turning off the
Do you remember they
servers?
turned off the older multiplayer? So is Black
Yep.
Flag multiplayer still on, or is that gone now as
The
well?
the older generation. So Black Flag came out the year that the Xbox One and PS4 came out.
Yep.
So it seems, and I haven't tried to actually play the PvP part, but you can get into the multiplayer and you can play like Wolfpack. I've
Mm,
done that on during my current playthrough,
okay.
but I
Okay.
haven't
So
tried
it's
to
the
get into.
older stuff. So
Yeah, it's like Revelations
83
Brotherhood
Rev
3,
Brotherhood.
and I
Yeah.
think Black Flag on the PS3 and 360.
Okay. Right. So I have played when they were closing it down. There was I forget the guy's name right now, but he hosted through his Discord and on his YouTube channel lots of basically parties. Let's get together. Let's play the old game while we can. So I
Play
did
the
do a
old
little
game,
bit of
knock
the
out those
really old,
achievements.
yeah,
Yep.
multiplayer. It's not my favorite mode because I'm just not very good. But I have played it. I get the concept, and it's all about social stealth and using your tools.
And
And
when that happened in when they turned those servers down, I felt like it wasn't really a lot of people using stealth. They were just running around and killing each other. And
yes,
so I
yes,
feel like if they push stealth, Scholar doesn't really matter. But if all
yeah,
they're doing
true,
is running
true.
around, if you have so many people, you need a lot of processing power.
Good point. Good point.
And it would allow for destructible environments.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
So could you imagine the trap sheet set?
Buildings falling on people's heads
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. That would actually be quite fun.
That
Yeah,
would be fun.
yeah.
Like it could be a lot of fun. What has I'm now thinking about it. I don't know what Annecy has.
Well, I was just looking as you were talking a moment ago. I was quickly Googling, and Annecy has worked on a lot of stuff. They contributed to Outlaws, they contribute to X Defiant, they contribute to Riders Republic, and they contribute to something called Steep, which I must admit I've never heard of. I don't think they're a lead studio, but they're definitely a contributing studio. They've worked on a lot of stuff in the past. Rayman, Splinter Cell, and then other games. I'll be honest, I've never heard of. Lots of Assassin's Creed games they've contributed to. So yeah, yeah. Ghost Recon, The Division.
Oh, Steep was a snowboarding game. Okay.
Is that your kind of thing?
No, I hadn't heard of it, and then I
No, I
realized,
haven't
oh,
heard
that's
of.
because it was a snowboarding game that came out in 2018.
Ah, okay. Man, there's a game that I used to play on the PlayStation. My wife, at the time she was my girlfriend. She had a PlayStation 2. I didn't have a console, and she had a game on her PlayStation which we played so much called SSX Tricky.
Yes,
Do you remember that?
yes, I remember Tricky.
I loved that game. It was so much fun. You'd pull awesome tricks. Oh, that's like just such happy
Nostalgia.
memories of
Yes,
that game. And here's a snowboarding game. It might have been just as fun. I've never played it. Anyway,
and
um,
and thinking about Echoes, like if that's the code name, usually the code name ties into it somehow,
mm,
story or something. Well, think of Echoes of History. They're podcasts that they're doing with History Hit.
oh yeah,
So you can use that to mash all these things together, and they could do a lot of interesting things with that tech. So, and we don't know if it's co-op PvP. It could be something they're developing from.
mm.
I mean, look at what Annecy's done. Like they, it could be
They've got a lot of
anything.
experience.
Yep. Riders Republic. That makes sense because that's such a MMO, um, basically an MMO BMX game.
Yeah, yeah.
I played the demo of it and went, yeah, no, this isn't my kind of game. But people like it. I think it's on Game Pass.
Mm, mm.
Um, the other thing that we don't know about is what's called Codename Nebula.
Right. Now, this was one when you sent over the list. So, in the background, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew's been very diligent with his research. And yesterday he sent over a long list of all the different project names. Most of what he sent over, I had heard of. Jade, Black Flag, which is Obsidian, Hexate. Nebula was one I hadn't heard of from your list. So tell us more.
So supposedly this is being made by Ubisoft Sophia.
Okay.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they put out they were the lead studio in Mirage, right?
No, Mirage's lead studio was Bordeaux.
Well, I know that Sophia's worked on.
Sophia worked. Did Sophia develop Rogue?
I'm
I
thinking
mean,
that might
again,
be the case.
I'm sure we could quickly look it up, but
I
they've contributed to many projects. I think, however, they led the development of Rogue or Liberation. My word, my memory
I
is
think that might
hazy.
be both.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it helps
Yeah.
if I learn how to spell
What
it.
we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, here is we'll get some good keyboard sound effects in the background, and we'll quickly look up Ubisoft Sofia, which is in Bulgaria, the capital of Bulgaria.
Sophia, lead on Rogue and Liberation.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
So supposedly Codename Nebula is going to be three settings in one: Mediterranean, India, and the Aztec Empire.
Okay.
So the last time they did three settings in one was Nexus.
Good point.
The problem with quote unquote Nexus is quote unquote, they actually called it Nexus, is it didn't sell well because it's a VR game and it didn't meet expectations. So if this was
What
meant
were
to be
their?
a
I'd love to
sequel,
know what were their expectations because it's on the MetaQuest already. That's one of three or four big VR. Unless you're willing to go multi-headset and push it out to PSVR, the Valve Index. There's another one I can't remember the name of. You're always only going to capture a fraction of the gaming. Anyway, sorry, rant over.
yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of people like even I think PSVR 2's dead already.
Pretty
Like,
much. There's so little
so
content for it.
you're talking about putting a game in a niche, essentially a niche of a niche.
Yeah,
Because believe it or
yeah,
not, gamer, we're a niche of the population. We're
yeah.
and especially when you talk about you and I who sit here and talk for about it, we're such a small area
Mm,
of a bigger whole. And
mm.
same thing with VR stuff. If you can't expect billions like Valhalla,
No, no.
like I wanted to do play that game, but I'd have to go and spend a $500 headset.
I'm the same, mate. I looked at it and thought, actually, this looks amazing. We had, again, we're going back sort of no, geez, we're going back 11 or 12 months when we had Leo K on the show and Hayete, and we were talking about Mirage gameplay. And towards the end of our conversation, Leo got to talking about Nexus, and he sold it to me because he made a very simple point, which is really, when you think about it, it's obvious, but when you made the point, it kind of opened my mind, which was this is the animus. You are the
Yep.
ancestor climbing, throwing, running, stabbing. And it's kind of the animus or it's the helix system brought to life. But I'm the same as you. I love gaming. It's my main hobby. I have spent an embarrassingly large amount of money on my PC over many years. I spend more hours gaming than any other sort of entertainment or any other hobby, but I've already spent enough and I can't justify £500 on a MetaQuest for one game. I'd
Yep.
say the frustrating thing, Andrew. I'd love to play the Horizon VR game, which is Call of the Mountain, but
Oh
that's on
yeah.
PSVR 2. So now I need to buy two VR headsets for two different franchises, and I ain't doing that. So
Yep.
I'll just go, yeah, that's me. But yeah, do you think then Nebula is a VR game, or do you think it's
I
a
don't think so because I think after they said they weren't going to do a quote unquote Nexus 2, and that's essentially the way we're talking
mm,
what Nebula would have been.
yeah,
So if this is something that's still in the pipeline, I'm thinking this is the the mainline game for 2028
okay,
because we have the 2024 main or 2025 now mainline game in Shadows,
mm-hmm,
2026 Hexa,
mm-hmm,
27 is potentially another
is
remake,
open,
and we'll get to that in a hot second.
yeah,
But we don't know anything by for 2028 or 2029, which would be that 5 year period. And at that point, we're talking 2 years for a mainline game, and that could potentially be this because we wouldn't get our quote our main studios usually in Assassin's Creed are Montreal and Quebec.
yeah,
And we know that that it takes them at least 5 years to make one game, these three
yeah,
big studios. And
yeah.
if you are putting out Shadows from Quebec in 2025, we won't see their next game until 2030.
That's a good point. So you need you kind of need three or four, let's call them top. This sounds a bit harsh. I don't mean like this, but you need three or four top tier studios
Yep.
working on the large scale games concurrently to
Yep.
maintain that release schedule. So you need Sophia or
And
maybe Bordeaux. Bordeaux, I thought it's funny. Like if you spend some time on the Assassin's Creed subreddit, you'll get some pretty mixed to negative commentary on Mirage. I have to say, I know that it's not perfect. The story is, eh. I thought Mirage was pretty damn good, and I wonder if Bordeaux has kind of earned their right, if you like, or shown that they've got the capabilities to take the lead on a major project.
I think
Um,
so. Um, I wonder if there's even anything rumored.
let's think. Quebec led the development of Syndicate. That was 15.
Yep.
Odyssey in 18. It's three
Yep.
years later. Then they did Immortals, which was a couple of years after that, 2020 or so. Yeah. Then it's been 4 to 5 years up to. So, yeah, you're looking at 4 years minimum, but we know that game dev is taking longer and longer, especially on the more complex open world games. So, yeah, 29 or 30 before Quebec's next major project.
Yep. So you would need
Um,
at least one more mainline studio to run it.
yep.
And I think you're
Yep.
either looking at Sofia or Bordeaux because they're the
Mm.
only other ones with mainline experience.
And Montpellier. Montpellier has done a lot of work for Assassin's Creed. They led, if I remember rightly, they led the development of Dead Kings and Jack the Ripper DLCs. And again, with Ubisoft, I know that it's a thing that people talk about, especially when people get into the whole Montreal versus Quebec conversation, which I think is silly. These projects are always multi-studio um, exercises, and lots of different studios, contribute to them. But I'm quickly checking the wiki. I am sure Montpellier has contributed to a number of Assassin's Creed projects. And again, would they potentially have the team size and whatever to lead a project? I don't know. I feel like Bordeaux is more in the frame just because of the good work they did on Mirage, or what I think was good work anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. It's if they want to maintain this release schedule, just simply swinging back and forth up and down the river in Canada between Montreal and Quebec is no longer enough.
No.
Um, and maybe that's why they've been ditching a number of projects because the backdrop to this huge amount of Assassin's Creed content is they've cancelled many other projects in the last few years, and maybe that is to free up capacity, to start populating this calendar. There is one other thing that you put in there with a question mark. And actually, it's something that we've had comments on from our Blue Sky post. Don't forget to check us out on Blue Sky. We're there now. So Aaron commented and said that surely we are going to get an AC1 remake. Surely we're going to get an AC1 remake. Um, what do you reckon?
Well, the one year we haven't talked about is 2027, the
Okay.
20th anniversary of Assassin's Creed.
Of course. Of course. I mean, that would be
Well,
just from
we
a.
thought we were going to get it for the 15th.
How stupid are we? Yes. Yes.
So it makes sense. But and I it's the one that needs modernizing the most because as I say about that game, it's a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you play it now, which I've played it in the last 3 years, it's it's difficult to get through. Um, it's very much of its time,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I don't want to say that of its time was a bad time because 2007 was one of the best years for video games probably ever.
Mm,
Mass Effect, Halo 3. So saying that it's of its time isn't a bad thing, but it could use remaking. Now, I all like, oh goodness, was it 5 years ago or so when the rumblings a remake of this coming up, and I was one of those ones that went, well, what if they do open world and put the new gameplay in it? And everybody was like, no, you can't do that. I was like, why not? All you have to do is say that you're using the new Animus, give it a new modern day, and put Elijah in it. And they went, what?
Oh, right.
Who's
Elijah and
Elijah?
the Animus.
Elijah and the Animus, because
That would be
he's
cool.
Desmond's son. So he's got
He's
every,
got all the
like, I thought you
memories.
could remake all of it
Yeah.
and just put Elijah in the Animus and give a whole new modern day. And I don't want to say force, but incentivize people to play a remake of everything 1 through 3 and possibly even 4, because you have a new modern day story
So
to tell.
make it a much bigger project. So it's not just Altair, it is Ezio as well.
That's an idea, but even if you don't want to make, like, if you wanted to do modern day, brand new, and do just Altair, you also
Mm,
have 2 mobile games,
true.
3 if you count the cell phone game. You also have 10 Years in Mongolia where he hunts Genghis Khan. You have story that you could tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what I thought was, then you go into a sequel with Elijah, retelling 2 Brotherhood and Revelations, all of Ezio's life, and then a sequel with 3 where you could talk more about Hatham, because there's things with Hatham's life that we don't get in 3, like his hunt
Yeah.
for Jenny.
Yeah.
And there's more with Connor because we never see him have a child. We don't see his
Good
child
point.
until the
Good
comic.
point. Good point.
And what really led me to this was the her his child, forgive me on the pronunciation, but I think it's Yonahote. She could communicate with an eagle like Cassandra did. So how much fun, quote unquote, would it be to play a game with her
With her.
learning how to hone her
Yeah.
skills with Cassandra after
Yeah.
the death of Rantakaitan?
Yeah. But it's Elijah and the Animus.
Yeah. And that's how
That would be
I would do it.
awesome.
And then that was all shot when they said, we're going to take modern day out of all future stuff and we're going to
Yeah.
put it in the Animus Hub.
Yeah.
But I can dream.
The only thing we should come to the Animus Hub because I see how long we've been recording for. The only thing I'll say is I think AC1 might be a little bit too old for just a quick visual asset update. You'd
I agree.
probably want to actually, it would have to be a full kind of Resident Evil 4 style remake, ground up, new actors, new mocap, entirely new assets.
And if,
Um,
if you're taking all this new tech and putting it into a Black Flag remake that is supposed to release supposedly in 2025, you have the tech, you have the idea, and you have 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it's been since they first. There's a code name for it, but I can't think of what the
mm,
supposed code name for this
mm.
remake. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, they keep denying rumors. So,
Maybe there's nothing. I don't know. It's
I mean,
definitely the one that needs attention. I mean, if you're a PlayStation player, you haven't been able to play Assassin's Creed 1 for a long time, unless you've kept your PS3, you know, dust free and powered up because
yep.
it doesn't run, as my understanding, on PS4. You know, it's 2014. So it runs fine on PC, though there are some little gremlins that you can run into with the audio. And with the haystack of bricks bug, which is caused
Yeah.
by VSync. So again, it still runs. I played AC1 for the first time in 2021. I've played it through twice. I found it quite challenging because I wasn't playing games in 2007. I didn't know games have changed. Like you said, they have different control schemes. Players expect the game to behave and to react in certain ways, and AC1 doesn't. And it was a steep learning curve. I'd be fine now because I'd know how to sort of meet it halfway, but it would be the most interesting one to see, I think. Um, On that topic, let's round out then with I've got two thoughts for you, mate. We'll talk about the modern day in the Animus Hub in a sec. What do you think about the quantity of releases? I mean, what I was thinking about this earlier, getting ready for this episode, and I was thinking, my word, I love Assassin's Creed, but I also quite enjoy playing other games. Um, I've put 100 hours into Cyberpunk in the last 6 weeks. I'm obsessed with that game. I could be playing that game for years. It's amazing. I like to mix up my gaming. I don't want to be finishing an Assassin's Creed game and then the next week the next one comes as, oh shit, here we go again, another 200 hours on another Assassin's Creed game. I was worried that it's just too much. Actually, listening to you in the last hour and a half and thinking about it, I'm quite. I've already made peace with the fact that not all of these games are for me. I don't want to play a Fall Guy style game. I won't play Jade if it's only available on iPhone. My eyes are too old to play a game on a tiny little iPhone screen. I will just ignore it. I shall listen to your episodes, or maybe we'll have people that play it on the show that talk about the lore, or I'll watch Access the Animus, or maybe Leo K. I doubt he'll be doing like in depth. Maybe he will. Maybe he will do some in depth sort of gameplay stuff. I'll go and look at the other creators who unpack things like Jade that are not for me. So I've already made peace with that, and actually, I'm quite looking forward to two big releases next year. Hexa in 26, and then it get the roadmap gets a bit fuzzy further into the future. But what do you think? Are you excited? Are you concerned?
I'm not really concerned with the idea of so many games in so short of a span. They're all going to be different sizes because it's said that Hexa is going to be smaller than Shadows. We already know Shadows is going to be smaller than Odyssey or Valhalla because they've
Mm,
stated the map's going to be about the size of Origins.
okay.
So we know Origins was like a 60-hour playthrough compared to Valhalla, which is like 100 for the main story, 600 if you did everything that came out.
That number still blows my mind, but yes.
Well, I know people who are still logging in every day playing the daily challenges.
I
He
mean,
said he wanted to try to get all of the cosmetics without paying for it.
I can't, in some ways I kind of respect that. It's not the way I game, but
And
sure,
and
fair enough.
I told him, all right, well, you work from home. If you're spending 20 or 40 minutes while in the middle of your project or whatever, just doing
Yeah,
that, more power to
yeah.
you.
I guess it's the
Um,
daily opal, is it? That's what
yeah,
this person has to earn, and then they
yeah, I
exchange the
think
opal
for
for the
the
cosmetics.
daily cosmetics. Yep. And last
Okay.
time I checked, they had over 1,000 hours on it, and that was, oh goodness, when was the last time I asked? Almost a year ago now.
All right.
So, I mean, if you're still getting your joy out of it, you're still getting your joy out of it, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel
Yeah.
with all of these upcoming games because I know they're not all for me. I will probably try them just to see if they are for me because
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
they're not for me or I can't physically play them for one reason or another, I know there's going to be YouTubes of like from I think it's Assassin's Creed series. I had
He will do his usual very
I
thorough.
he's got
Yep.
like 4 hours of um Nexus that I have queued up that I
Yep.
want to sit down and watch so I
Yep.
can see the lore for myself.
I just want to say, just as a side note, I don't think he's a subscriber, but he contributed a lot during the fundraiser, and we message occasionally. Absolute gentleman. Really nice guy, very collaborative. So thank you, sir.
If I have a question about a main story, if I can't figure out like if I know what game it is around, instead of trying to find it myself, I'll go through his videos.
Yep. Yep.
And he's relisted like he's remade so many new ones recently that I he's invaluable to the community, I
Mm,
think.
absolutely.
So if I can't get into a game like Echoes or whatever it is, like I'm sure he'll play it
Yeah.
and put it out and I'll
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
The remakes, I want to point out that I'm sure AC1's on his way because Yves made a comment recently about multiple remakes on the way.
Oh yes, he did. You're right. You're right.
um, something about um, we're excited about some remakes, which will allow us to revisit some of the games we've created in the past and modernize them. There are worlds in some of our older Assassin's Creed games that are still extremely rich. To me, that comment means we're going to remake games and make them bigger,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
with Black Flag, that could be the naval combat because you can throw in the Skull and Bones naval combat
Mm,
or and just remake
mm,
it for that ocean. Or you could take Assassin's Creed 1 and fill in the kingdom because that was essentially empty.
yeah, yeah.
You could
There
add
was
a
a lot of
city here or
content
there.
cut, wasn't there, for the kingdom? I think there was originally supposed to be more in the kingdom as you rode from each city, but a lot of it got cut. I guess it was a
I
small
wouldn't
project at
be
the time,
surprised
wasn't it?
because
So,
that game is extremely repetitive, and you're right; it does need to be remade from the bottom up, especially in the narrative style. Because instead of doing five eavesdrops, you can actually have a cutscene
mm,
and actually get go through that way.
mm,
As long as the core of the story stays the same, I'll be all right.
yep,
Because to me, it's just okay. We're in a different animus, and because we're in a different animus, which is essentially what the hub is going to be, where we're supposed to launch all of this stuff, that's where we gotta go. Okay, what's this mean for the future? That's the question.
yeah, yeah.
Because you made a good question, a good observation that I didn't even think about either this morning or yesterday. Or what does it mean for gaming conservation if we go to that?
That's my concern about the Animus Hub. Yeah, if we still don't know what it is, although I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to read the message that was posted on the official Assassin's Creed Discord, and then it was posted to the subreddit, and then it was pinned as well by the subreddit mod team. So this is from a Ubisoft community manager called UB Waldo. That's his or her um, handle. So the title is A Message from the Team on the Animus Hub. Side note, I do believe this is the first time that they've referred to it as the Animus Hub. We know it's been called Infinity as a project for several years. I think this is the first time it's actually been given that name by anyone from Ubisoft.
Well,
Anyway,
didn't we have that conversation in your Animus Hub
we well
yesterday?
we did, and I gotta find it. Where did I
Because
put
I
it?
believe someone said that last summer, Alexa, Mark, I'm going to pronounce this because I'm not
Mark
French.
Alexi
Mark Alexis
Cote.
Cote
Oh, I can't
said
remember his
something
name.
about the name change either last summer or this latest summer.
Okay, so it was Six Keys, who's been a frequent guest on the show. She said, I looked it up and it was confirmed by Mark Alexis Cote in June. Yes. Um, Although apparently Marco from Access the Animus over on his Discord has said, actually, yes, this is the first time they've officially referred to it as the Animus Hub.
So he might have just said something in passing.
Maybe. Yeah. So sorry, again, already gone off topic on my little thing. So UB Waldo's message was a message from the team on the Animus Hub. Hello, everyone. It has come to our attention that inaccurate rumors have been circulating online regarding the upcoming Animus Hub, brackets, X codename Infinity, close brackets. We wanted to take this occasion to clarify that all the rewards available in the Animus Hub will be entirely free. That's in bold. There are no paid subscriptions or paid battle pass features in the Animus Hub. 3. Players will have access to regular content and missions at no extra cost. We will unveil more details about it closer to the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Thank you. Because there's been a lot of crap swirling about the Animus Hub in the last few weeks. Rumors of battle passes, rumors of MTX. The problem with Ubisoft is they've created this environment where everyone believes the worst. If you start a rumor that there's some shitty monetization technique that Ubisoft are going to launch, people go, yeah, that seems like what something they do, and people just accept it
You
because
want me to
that's the
really
atmosphere they've
boil your blood
created.
here, hot second?
Go
He
for
didn't
it.
say anything about NFTs.
Oh, don't you dare, you bastard. How dare you? Oh, I tell you what though, if this has got NFTs or crypto, I think I'm done. For me, it's kind of a red line. There's such bullshit. No, I'm not prejudging it, right? Let's see what it is. Let's see what it is.
Okay, to be fair, um, that doesn't mean there isn't microtransactions.
No, that is true.
So there are ways that what he said can be true without it being the full scope and story.
Indeed.
For instance, Halo Infinite, it's a battle pass system. You pay for a pass for a season and you work over levels to get. But even without buying the battle pass, you get free rewards with it. So you can still do something similar. You're just the way I'm reading this is not everything is going to be locked behind a paywall. I'm sure they're going to put a paywall in it because if they're going to put modern day into it, they got to fund the modern day somehow.
Yeah.
You can fund the
Yeah.
historical stories with the release of Shadows and Hexe and the
Mm,
remakes, but how do you fund the modern day story or anything else that you're going to put in there without stuff like that? So think about like Invictus or whatever, or Echoes. All the multiplayer stuff is going to launch out of here too. So when you talk about microtransactions for those games, your skins and your other cosmetics, are you buying them within the game or are you buying them within Hexe or the Animus Hub? How does that correlate to everything else?
mm, mm. The other bit, which again, I'm generally a positive guy. I try to always assume the best. But I'm afraid when I read this message, I thought, okay, this is good news. I'm glad that you've responded to the rumors. But my tinfoil hat part of my brain immediately thought, sure, maybe all the rewards are entirely free, but fuck me, are we going to make you bastards grind for them?
Yep.
Or you can pay us a couple of quid for each unlock or each thing,
Yep.
or you get your modern day story in Shadows, but then you've got to go and play Invictus to unlock the next. I don't know, mate. I just
I wouldn't mind a system where you have to play one game to get unlocks in another. That's not a horrible idea.
mm, mm,
There I don't remember what game it was recently. It's like, oh, it's all free to play, but you'd have to spend hundreds of hours to get everything unless you paid for it.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
when I hear stuff like this, I go back and I think about EA's launch of Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2. That was one of those moments where they said that they were going to put in this microtransaction system and that if you didn't use it, it was going to spend like you needed like 40 hours to unlock Darth Vader or whatever it was.
Ah, that
That
was it.
got that got so heated that it ended up with like the most downvoted Reddit post in history. So they took out the microtransactions. They gave it 6, 8, 12 months. Microtransactions are in that game right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm always hopeful for the best. I'm hopeful that the Animus Hub is just a launcher where you can access different games. Although, how will it interact with UB Connect? How will it interact with the library of games I've already got? I'm hoping that all of the modern day content is free. I don't really want playtime to be tied to story. So you must play X hours to unlock chapters. I want to play until I've had enough and then move on with other games. Um, any other thoughts on the hub, my friend?
I like the idea of the story of the hub being the hub. Wrong hub. Um,
Are you thinking of an automotive hub at this point?
I'm thinking of Mattel putting the wrong URL on the back of their movie dolls.
Yes, indeed.
Um, I don't mind it being tied to like, for lack of a better term, checkpoints in the story. For instance, if we have to load shadows through the Animus Hub, we start with the Animus Hub, we get that open cinematic, and we're like, oh hey, hello, welcome to the Animus. Here's what stories you have unlocked.
Mm,
And then as you play through those stories, different things happen in the Animus Hub that are story based that can give you why you're playing these stories. Think Unity or
Yeah.
Syndicate. So I think it could work. I also, speaking of Unity and Syndicate, hope that it has some legacy content in the term of, oh, we see that your account is tied to these things from the past. Enjoy this. Thank you for being with us for 20 years.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Even if it's a small little icon, if because Ubisoft Connect in some form or fashion, I think has been around since Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood.
Yeah, I think Two or Brotherhood had the first kind of Uplay
Yeah.
mention in the menu, didn't it?
Yep.
Maybe Brotherhood.
And then maybe tie in a little bit to like the mobile games, because there's one game that still has the servers active that we haven't heard anything about in a long, long time. I think it's called Rebellion. It's the
Oh
one
shit. Yeah.
that ties into um, the movie because it has Aguilar
Of
in the main
course, there's
story
Aguilar and the
and
whole French,
Tarkamanada.
Spanish
Yep.
storyline.
I
Yeah.
think, oh, what, I don't remember the last time when the last actual update was, but we got like Revelations Ezio and some new characters. I would love to see um, Naue and Yasuke in that art style
Oh, that would be so. I mean,
because it would be so cute.
yeah, it's not my game. I've played it a bit, but it doesn't do it for me. But people love it, and
Yep.
I wonder, is it still receiving content?
It hasn't received content since they put the roguelite monthly mode in it.
Oh,
And I
okay.
don't remember when that
Yeah.
was. It's been within the last probably 2 or 3 years, because we have Avor in it,
Mm, mm.
both Avors. One was essentially currency based. Yeah, they both called Avor, and that's frustrating. One should be called Javi, but that's
How dare you?
yeah, yeah.
I'm just being nerdy and checking the version history. So there was a bug fix to it in August, bug fix release. There was a bug fix release in July.
So they're still doing bugs. They're just not doing anything
Okay.
major.
The last release of Rebellion that had, it says here, this includes improvements to our Gauntlet event, was January, 2023. Oh my God. So the Gauntlet event was added November 2022.
And that was the last
Hmm.
major update, I think, because that was
Okay.
the last time we got new characters.
Okay. So we
So
have to
they
assume
didn't.
it's in maintenance mode now, is it?
I would assume. I wanted to just say, oh, well, they didn't do anything for Mirage, but well, we already had Basm in the game, so
True.
Roshan maybe, but
True. Yeah.
they don't have. Do they have all the main characters?
They
Aveline's not
added,
in it.
they add, Aveline's not in it.
Not that
I
I
know
can
they
think
added
of.
Arno because that was quite cute to see
Yep,
Arno in that style.
Bayek, Cassandra, Alexios. Um, come on, phone.
He's checking live now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I think my phone's dead. I think I killed it. Yep, my phone's dead. 100% dead. But I have an emulator on my PC. Let me
Oh,
just
that's
crash
cool.
everything.
Don't crash your recording, mate. This is
Yeah, we're not going to go into that. Well, we can look at that later, but I'm betting. Um, but let's see. Let me go through it. AC1 has Altair and Maria and Al Mualim,
Mhm.
Ezio Claudia, Niccolo Machiavelli, Mario, Bartolomeo. I think Lavolpe's in there too. They gave Leonardo da Vinci's in it as a playable character. Yusuf's in there. Um, I think Hatham's in there. Atika Hayton's in there.
Okay.
Arno. I don't remember. I don't think Elise is in there. Eveline's not in there.
No, Elise wasn't added. No, I'd know about that.
Oh, actually, you know what? I know a website. I know a website that I can look all that
Has
in.
someone got like screenshots of all the character models?
No, what they have is basically a here's the best characters um and how best to build them.
Ah, because that was the bit that I lost interest. I played like the first chapter, was it 15 missions? And then I wasn't leveled up enough. And then I was just like, I can't be bothered to keep rerunning these missions. This is boring. I'm afraid I checked
I
out.
think it was this one. No, it wasn't this one. I saved it and gave it to I put it somewhere in your Discord server because I gave it to Declan because he was
Ah,
struggling with
okay.
it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Xiao Jun's in there. Um yeah, that guy's poo.
It would be great if we got a Xiaojun story,
I
either
I think she could be
as
like
part of
some kind of
Shadows or
side
as one of
stories
the
and shadows.
expansions. You know, what was the guy that came? It was Kotetsu, wasn't it? Who came
Yep.
from China to Japan. Imagine if the story in Shadows, it was like the second expansion or something, and it was him telling the tale to Naue, and then it
Oh,
kind
that'd
of
be
fades to
great.
black,
Yeah.
and then
Kind of
we're
like,
playing as Xiaojun, but it's Kotetsu telling the memories. You know, that would be
oh, that would be
so great.
great. Yeah, I can't find the rest of it. But yeah, we have like everything except for most of the main characters,
Mm,
except for
mhm.
Aveline and Elise.
Yeah, understood. But it looks like it's in maintenance mode now and no more content for Rebellion. So
Oh, that's sad.
yeah, yeah. All right. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours. Now I will make a few little edits because I did have to step away from the microphone at one point, just to check on the dog. So I may do a little snip there and a few other little snips. Um, there we are, mate. What do you think?
Um,
Got your gaming hands ready for 10 games in 5 years?
yeah, actually, because I think I was essentially very disconnected from the community until the announce of Shadows, and
Yeah,
we have to
yeah.
be honest, the pushback did kind of take the wind out of our sails for
Yes,
a while. Like, I
yes.
mean, you can show it, but you can see it by how often we podcast, how often we all talk.
Mm, mm,
And like, I mean, we could go through the Reddit and find questions and go, hey, let's do that in a podcast. We
yeah,
could do that.
yeah,
But at the same time, we want to be ready for when it comes out. We want to have that swell. We don't want to be burnt out before it comes out.
no, indeed, indeed.
And if these this idea is true about how many we could get next year is going to be busy.
We're gonna have to actually. I'm actually going to pull my finger on my arse and do some recording and some editing and some
Yep.
publishing for
And
sure.
like I've already scheduled the day off for the Shadows release. I haven't pre-ordered it
I
because
mean, it's Valentine's Day, my friend. I'm assuming you're taking Mrs. Visions of the Past out for dinner on that day. You know,
I might
sorry, love,
make
I'm
her
gaming.
dinner. Um, I might make her
Dinner's in
dinner,
the
but
oven.
we
I'm
like
busy.
I'm already going, how am I going to watch the new Marvel movie that comes out of this day and
Yeah,
not sacrifice
yeah.
my game time? I think I have a plan for that
Okay,
because most movies come out like and actually have showtimes the day before their actual release, their quote
what do
unquote
they?
midnight releases.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
So I'll try to watch it on Thursday and then get up early and go to the shops to buy the game because I don't think I'm going to pre-order it because if I pre-order it, I have to wait for it to come home, and
good point.
usually they don't get to the house on the day they release.
Good
So
point.
that'll then it's do I get the steelbook? Do I not get the steelbook because of whatever timing it is? But that's a vision future vision problem. Either way,
Indeed.
I'm taking the day off that day to play.
I actually don't know what the day of the week is. Is it going to be a
It's a
third? Is it
Friday.
normally a third? Oh, it's a Friday.
It's a Friday. Usually video game
Yeah.
releases are on a Friday now, and if they do early release, it's on a Tuesday.
You know,
Because that's
that
what it
week,
was previously before Shadows
yeah,
for this week.
that week or the following week, because of the way the UK school system works, that might be a school holiday that week.
Ooh.
So I mean, I'll like you, I'll definitely take the day off. I might game in the day. treat my good lady wife in the evening, and then more gaming later in the night.
Well, and to be
Um,
fair, you are part of that creator program. Your hands are already twitching from the pre-release.
yeah, we might. Here's the thing,
Mm,
right? I I hope for it, but I won't plan for it.
right. And that's probably the best
Um,
way to do it, especially with the
because
way this release has been.
exactly, and totally understand why. Of course, your big creators with the big followings get early access. They get a lot more content, devs,
Right.
more time. Totally get that. Makes sense. We got 6 or 7 days of early access to Mirage, which was amazing. We were able to sort of understand the game, finish the game, understand the story before the big go live day. But I would say even then we were quite cautious with our content because I didn't want to do a load of spoiler stuff on day one. I just don't think that's cool.
Right.
Um,
I'm
so
with you on that.
yeah, we probably waited I think 3 or 4 episodes before we did, maybe three before we went into the story side. If we do get early access, that'd be amazing. Although I know this time because it's going to be a bigger game, what are
You
we going
won't
to
be
be?
through it.
We're going to be like Act One complete,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something like
you'll
that.
be in it early enough to go, here's what I wish I knew.
Yes, yes. So it's going to be. The
And
other thing is that again, we're a tiny little channel, although we still grab a subscriber or two every week. Um, we're tiny. This is not my full time job, of course. I never know what my work's going to be doing. I know for a fact because of what some of the stuff that happens is the first week of Feb is always a busy time at work. So it could be that I actually don't get to take advantage of the early
oh, yeah.
access.
That's pretty much I
That's
have
just
a
the way
very
life goes.
yeah, I have a very big project going on now that could run into that. That's why I took the time off now. And
Yeah,
like,
makes
oh, hey,
sense, mate.
you already approved this.
That's a
You
very
knew it
good point.
6 months in advance.
Yeah. And as an American, you get like 3 days of PTO a year, I think, is
I'm
my
I
understanding.
I have about 2 weeks, but we have
Two
to.
weeks. Oh my
But
God.
but
Woo.
to be fair, we also have to use that for sick days.
This just, I don't, we probably shouldn't go on to this topic, but this
Yeah, you
blows
got a
my
spare
mind, my
flat.
friend.
I'm ready for somewhere else. You're in a hot set. Thank you,
You,
American
do
public.
you know what?
Yay.
You would love it here, my friend. We don't live in a city. We live in a little market town in the Midlands. It's beautiful here. It's quiet. It's so chilled. It's really nice. And all the holiday and the PTO and the healthcare and everything else is
Yeah, the healthcare's the big one. Healthcare's the
yeah,
big one.
yeah. I mean, the NHS is not in a good state. Waiting times are long, but it comes back to that accessibility. You need a
Yep.
doctor, you go to accident and emergency, the ER, they just see you and fix you. That's it. You're not filling out forms for your insurance or who's going to pay which bit. It's a
And
very
yeah,
different world.
having an insurance guy tell you what medication you can get, what you can't.
Yeah, none of
Yep.
that crap. None of that crap, mate. Um, yeah, different world. Yeah, so I like you. Let's come back to topic. I'll probably take the day off, or depending on when the holidays fall, I might take the Monday off so I can take a long weekend. You know,
Yeah, that's essentially
um,
how it'll turn out for me. Is I'll spend the
yeah,
morning of the Friday hunting down a copy,
yep,
and then into it
yeah,
for three days.
yeah. Fuck the haters. I am looking forward to Shadows so much. I
I
can't
think
wait.
Shadows is going to be fun. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how the story comes down. I like we only see the shinobi and samurai fantasy so far.
Mm,
And as longtime fans of the series, we know there's something else there. We haven't
yep.
seen who's Templars. We haven't
Nope.
seen how the Isu are going to fit into it.
Nope.
And even if they're not front and center, you know there's going to be a piece of Eden somewhere. There's going to be little snippets throughout. Uh, I mean, last time I was on when they just announced it, we were like, oh hey, the map shows that they're really close to this one vault according to AC1.
Yep. And there's a hint in the when we had the first content drop in the summer, there was like a reviewer's guide, which we're not allowed to share the entire contents of, but we can refer to and quote from. And there's a comment in that guide about Yasuke. And it says something like Yasuke is traveling to Japan for a reason. So it's not that he was captured in East Africa as a slave by the Portuguese and just happened to end up in Japan. The way I read it was he's there, he's either allowed himself to be captured or he was never a slave on a ship or whatever. And he's had his own, of his own volition, he's decided to travel to Japan for a purpose. Now, whether he's aligned to the Templars, because hey, you got the nice big red Portuguese crosses on
Yeah.
the sails, which fits
And we
nicely with
know
the
they're the
Templar
reason that the
ideology.
Templars are there in Japan
Yep,
anyway.
absolutely. So whether he is actively a member of that organization or whether he's actually completely independent, but he's allowed himself to sort of become attached to them in order to get there, we don't know yet. But that I felt that's a very enigmatic statement, and there's a lot of interest there.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, and there was a recent leak or something of some kind of book that said he was part of a League of or Brotherhood of Shadows or something like
yes.
that.
What is that all about?
And to me, that just says, okay, so he's going to be part of the group that Naoe is a part of, which makes sense. He doesn't need to be a shinobi to be a member of what is essentially a proto
Absolutely,
assassin group, even though
absolutely.
at this point they are assassins. So it could be, I'm just really excited for the story because
Me too.
Japanese history is so rich, especially in this time period, that they can play a lot. And I don't
Mm,
remember which
mm,
Assassin's Creed game it was, but you hear the phrase history is our playground. Just play and realize that this is a work of fiction that is, I always forget how it goes, but every Assassin's Creed game is a work of fiction made by a multicultural, multidiversional team and is meant to be so.
yep. And on that note, we will end the episode.